All right. Like, welcome everybody. This is Victor's Dragon 360, and like today, it's like a really quick and to be fair, easy tutorial. It just looks really complex for some reason. People find it complex due to how many options there are in 3D Max, I guess, but it's actually not that hard. So, for instance, you got your model, uh, and you want to showcase it, like make a little video about how you, how can I say it, present your model basically. Yeah. So if you want to present your model to the public in the video, you want to spin it around in different angles, like show it from several sides. And for instance, on that project, I made a simple, most awesome, obviously, General Grievous head, and I can obviously just make a picture of it by going to rendering and render, and it will give me a picture that I can save. But what's the fun in that? You can do so much more with rendering by making videos. Uh, in that example, we are going to make about 3-4 seconds video by changing the view, basically the position of the camera, and leaving the target of the camera the same. So basically what we do to start with is go to the top, apologies, like not the top, basically right bottom viewport, which is basically the perspective, and click Alt W. So hold Alt on the keyboard and press W. That way, at least by default shortcut, you'll be going into the view with the selected viewport. So the model might not be in the center straight away, and it might be in some weird angle already. So what we need to do is we select the model by left clicking it and press Z on the keyboard. That brings us into zoom in right into the model center. So that is the model center approximately. So that's where we zoom in. Then click on the top left corner of the cube that is giving different angles to the viewport. So on the top right you've got this little cube that shows the different angles. You just click on that little corner, not on the side, not on that side or that corner, on that little corner, and it automatically brings the model into perspective from a really good angle. In my opinion, that's as most models should be shot from. And I know the model kind is really bad, but whatever. You obviously can create the model to the best of your ability, and then you want to make a video, you do that, and that is the point which some people might struggle with, creating the camera. I don't know why, but it's actually pretty simple. All you got to do is, while you're in that view of a perspective viewport, you go to create in the menu, cameras, and create physical camera from you. That's it. I mean, if you have the shortcuts enabled, you can just press Ctrl C like that, and ta-da, you have a physical camera created right for the center of the model, and make sure you don't move around in the perspective anymore while you have physical camera selected, because that will move the camera itself. So if I start moving around now, that will actually change the position of the camera. So be careful not to do that. Now, if you want to switch off from the camera to perspective again, you can move, and you can see how the camera is basically positioned. It looks right at the center, well, pretty much at the center of the model. So the way we are going to make it move around, we're not going to actually rotate the model, we're just going to change the position of the camera. So the way we're going to do that is we press Alt W again to switch to 4 viewports mode, and we'll look at the top left viewport, which is basically the top by default, or if you have it in the other viewport, just switch to the top and click on the select and move tool, so like that. And approximately you should move the camera, not straight away, obviously. I'm just showing you what we're going to do. The camera is going to move like that. Don't click anything yet, just look where the camera moves. So you want it to kind of move around a little bit back first, then a little bit to the side. So ideally it will just go in a straight line, but it all depends on how you want to emphasize the front or the back of the model. We're going to keep it simple. We're just going to make it move over there. That's it. And the camera will rotate automatically, because the one we created is actually targeted camera. So how are we going to do that? While you have the camera selected, you need to click on the camera. So Phys Camera 001, you left click on it in any viewport, but you need to click on it on top viewport ideally, because that's where we are going to move it. Then you go down and click Auto Key button to toggle Auto Key mode. The timeline should turn red. That's totally okay, because we are going to use it to create basically the keyframes, which makes it possible to create animation. In this case, we're actually moving the camera, so it's not anything to do with the model, but with the camera movement. But you'll see how it works in a bit. And then we need to set the camera to the view that we want it to be in. If you want to check, click on the perspective view again, change to camera, physical camera. It should go automatically to the view of the model in the center if you follow the tutorial. And then you can correct it by making it a bit on the spot. I have exact movements because I have selected the snap to grid and snap angle modes. But yeah, if you want to cancel at any point, back to the top, back to original position, just right click while you have camera selected, and it will go back to original view. Or you can just use edit undo. So, but ideally you want to move it somewhere a little bit like that, and in another viewport you can correct the height to which it goes, so that it is not kind of exactly on the same level of on x-axis. You just want to make it a bit higher. So you put it a bit like that. Yeah, it automatically snaps for me because I have these options enabled, as I said. And you can obviously use the keyframe line to move to whichever point you want camera to stop moving at. So for instance, if you export it in 30 frames per second, it's going to be approximately 2 seconds. So you want it to be at 60 frames move. So yeah, let's make it 75 seconds, 2.5 frames. I mean, 75 frames is 2.5 seconds. So in 2.5 seconds, the camera will move around the model. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move it right over to that position and correct the y-axis because it snaps for me, so that it is exactly where I want it to be, and move it a little bit again. So nope, yeah, something like that. Don't let it snap too much because that will not be the desired effect. If you want to, you can obviously disable the snap toggle and just do it for whichever angle you want to have a exact position, or you can use the position controls at the bottom, like with any object. So if you deselect the camera by left clicking anywhere else where there is no model or camera, you can move back the keyframes and you can see how the camera will move with it in the bottom right view where the physical camera is instead of perspective. So now all we have to do is go to render setup, little kettle with the star over there, or cogwheel as they call it, and all you need to do is click active time segment. So it will render all the scenes from 0 to 100, and it will save it to a file. If you do have render output grayed out underneath, all you need to do is click files, select the folder where you want to save it, enter the name for the file that you want to save. So I want to save it as GRV, short for Grievous. No, my bad, that's Vader. Anyway, and don't forget to select from all formats to AVI, because that is the video format that is most commonly used. Then click Save. It will automatically tick the box, and if you did everything correctly, you should be able to click Render, and it should start rendering. And obviously it didn't do it correctly because guess what, we clicked on the wrong viewport. We click cancel. My bad, my mistake, I didn't select the right viewport. And can just click left mouse button on the right bottom viewport. That's why you need to pay attention to the setup before you actually click render. So now what we do is we click render again, and if it asks us to change the file, we say confirm overwriting yes, and all it does is basically renders all the frames. The camera goes round and round, and then it stops and waits for you to kind of enjoy the final image. Let's see how it worked out on the final video file. So let's go to, oh, wrong one. Let's go to Grievous folder and play the video. Smooth transition shows the model from several sides. Again, if you wanted to, you could do 180% turn. So if you select the camera and go to 75th frame, you could just put it somewhere further on, like from there, and at the first frame from there, so it would be more of a deep turn and it would go further off. But the important thing is, if you want to fiddle around with the camera afterwards, or with the model or anything, don't forget to turn off the auto key. That's very important. So let's repeat the steps that we did there. We go to perspective mode. We choose the position that we want to go for the model. We click the Ctrl C, and it goes obviously to the camera view that is newly created, and then we move the camera in the other viewports after we select the auto key and all the frames that we need. So at the first frame, 0 out of 100, it should be at this position. At the near the end position, it should be elsewhere, so you can see the difference as it moves off. And why did I not do it at 100? It's not a good idea to do it at 100, because if you do it at 100, the video will stop as soon as the camera stops moving, and that is not very nice to the eye. That is just something that I found out through experience. If the video stops at the last point of movement of the camera, it doesn't look as good, in my opinion, at least. It just doesn't do it for me. So of course you can experiment and try on your own, but yeah, that's about it. That's the whole video. Hope it wasn't too hard for you. Please feel free to ask anything you don't understand in the comments. I'll try to answer ASAP. And that was Victor Zen 360. I'll see you next time. Signing out.